With so many options, why choose Arizona State University?
For me, the only online option was ASU because of the quality. Their faculty was really involved with their students and care about your personal journey. The dedication to my personal development from my professors, that's been extremely valuable to me.
Earn your degree from the nation's most innovative university. Online. That's a degree better. Explore more than 300 undergraduate, graduate, and certificate programs at asuonline.asu.edu.
Having a life scholarship and being able to afford to go to college made me feel inspired to go.
When I got a life scholarship, it was such a relief.
I knew that I wanted to have an impact. Having a life scholarship through the SC Education Lottery was huge. It gave me the opportunity to make that impact right here at home.
The South Carolina Education Lottery. A better you, a better us, a better South Carolina. Visit sceducationlottery.com/betteryou.
What is up, and welcome back, everybody, to another episode of hopsgeeknews, your home for comic books, movies, TV shows, and we typically feature a beer of the week. I am Matt. With me, as always, is Lauren. Today, this episode is the one that you may have been waiting for, you may not have been waiting for, Lauren has not been waiting for, I have been a mixed bag, and it's Man of Steel. We're going to talk about Man of Steel. I will a little bit talk about Batman v Superman. I will not stomach to talk about Justice League, so don't worry. We're just gonna breeze. We're gonna give it like a footnote. But we to wrap up our movies, because we've been getting ready for Superman that comes out next week. We have been talking all of the Superman films, so we have to include these. And then next week's episode, before the release of Superman, we are going to drop our comic book origin, and then after Superman releases, we'll do our spoiler review of the film. So Super Summer's in full swing. Like, subscribe, share, follow, all the good stuff. hopsgeeknews, any podcasting platform, any social media platform. Come hang out with us, drop a review. You know where to find us. Come hang out, talk, all that good stuff. And my beer of the week is from, a good little brewery called Crank Arm Brewing out of Raleigh, North Carolina. It is a double tandem, double IPA tandem. It's got freaking cats on it. I like this. I kind of chose it, I guess, as a stretch because Batman v Superman, the two biggest heroes in DC, and tandem bicycles are twice the fun. They don't ride bicycles, but tandem is our rendition of the beloved double IPA, and pale and Munich make up the malt backbone, which is balanced by a large bittering charge in this tasty behemoth. Behemoth, two behemoths like Batman and Superman. Hops change on tandem each batch, but the emphasis is on tropical and fruity flavor and aroma. Grab a partner, take a ride. We are going to take a ride today, folks. Lauren, what are you drinking on over the yonder?
So I should say I like Man of Steel. I think it's a good movie. I love Henry Cavill as the Wolverine, as the Calverine. I love him as Superman. He's the hottest Superman. But what I'm drinking is called Lunch Date because Clark and Lois, they eventually they're going to go on a lunch date because they just went straight to making out in this. But they go on a lunch date. But also mainly the brewery is Invasive Species.
I love that spot.
Argue that Zod is definitely an invasive species because he's coming to Earth and he wants to grow all of the Kryptonians there again, which will destroy our planet and making them an invasive species.
I see what you did there. I do see what you did there. Good call. I like that brewery a lot. It's in Fort Lauderdale. So if you're there, it's a cool place. And it also is a distillery as well. And they have a really good taco truck right out front. So
just outside downtown. I didn't know they were a distillery. Maybe I did know that.
Yeah, I tried their spirits. Carrie and I did shots there too. Their spirits are really good. Everybody's super chill. They definitely smoke a lot of weed, and it's a good spot.
It's so cool too because they have so much stuff like taxidermied around, and I just sit there at the bar because we've been there multiple times, and I just can't stop looking around. And they have a beautiful mural on the wall.
Ace Ventura, when he's Ace Ventura 2, that's what it makes me think of sometimes. When you're in there, you're like,
yeah.
That's kind of what that reminds me of. But yeah, so, this is, if you're first time listening, go ahead and we do read what we've been reading or watching. So comic book recommendations that we're reading, what we've been watching lately, some news, and then our main topic. Lauren, I have a laundry list of things. So do you want to go first? You want me to go first?
I've been killing it. I can get mine out of the way.
Knock it out of the way. Your reviews are excellent. These are good comic books you got here.
Thank you. Actually, this week I reviewed two of my favorite current runs. One is Welcome to Twilight #4 from Dark Horse Comics. That's part of the Minor Threats universe. This wrapped up this run. They've had multiple different runs in the Minor Threats universe. That's Jordan Bloom and Patton Oswalt created that, and Keith Hepburn. And this one's in particular, because they've been doing different writers for this run, because this was an anthology. So this one was by Gary Dugan, Patton Oswalt, and Jordan Bloom. Art by Mark Torres. It was really cool. So we meet the cleaner of Twilight City, and basically he's what you would think he would be. We're like, hey, I accidentally did this to this person. Can you come clean up this mess? And of course, the accident in which somebody passed away reminded me of a particular scene from The Boys, and I'll leave it at that.
Oh, interesting.
But I really liked this character because he's very creative in his job, but he also seems like he's kind of a good guy. And I love pulling out the good guys in this world, because this world that they've created is full of D-bags.
Right.
So it's like Shit Eater is one of my favorite. He's the barfly. Crab Louie is one of my favorites. And I think the cleaner might be number 3. So loving this run. You could pick up this run by itself and it will make complete sense. Or you can read all of it. If anything, like pick up one of the Welcome to Twilight. Just see if you like it. Number 2 is more related to a past story. But the other 3 can kind of be enjoyed standalone completely. And if you like it, then you can go back and get more. And then the other thing I reviewed this week was the Rocketfellers. That's part of Ghost Machine at Image Comics. This too has been so much fun because it's the family that is hiding in the year 2025, and they make comments about how like archaic our time is because they're centuries in the future, but they're hiding from like kind of like Time Hunter kind of thing, like not time wraiths, but you get the gist. And the people are kind of getting closer to them. And then there's an eyeball that the dad's been researching, and the eyeball goes missing. And then the dad finds the eyeball, and all chaos ensues, and they find out there's something going on with his daughter. But it's still it's a lot of chaos, and it's sci-fi, and it's action packed. But they're such a down to earth family, and it's really funny at the same time.
I am so far, but that's like I said that. In Hornsby and Halo, I'm really behind in, so I need to catch up. But I do love the covers, and we went to the comic shop today, and Oliver was looking at comics to buy, and he picked up Rook Exodus on his own. So I got him issue 1. So maybe he's going to start diving into the Ghost. He's not reading Hyde Street yet. He's not there, but I would like to get him started in Hornsby and Halo, Rook Exodus, and then the Rocketfellers would be good reads for him to get introduced into the world of Ghost Machine and comic books as well. So I do need to catch up in there. That's one thing I definitely have to do.
At Arizona State University, we're bringing world-class education from our globally acclaimed faculty to you. Ranked #1 in innovation for 10 consecutive years and #2 among public universities for employability, ASU isn't just ahead of the curve. It's creating new paths to success. Earn your degree from the nation's most innovative university. Online, that's a degree better. Explore more than 300 undergraduate, graduate, and certificate programs at asuonline.asu.edu.
But before I talk about the book that I read, why don't you go into your comics and pick up with Hyde Street? Because I did read that too. That was really good.
Yeah. So Hyde Street, man, Ghost Machine. So you got Brad Anderson, Jeff Johns, Danny Meeke, Ivan Reese. They are all Rob Lay. This one is issue 7. So Pranky is on the prowl for Oddman, the failed actor turned Frankenstein. And they kind of come to blows. There's this mysterious man that they come upon who keeps walking in circles. And Jeff really takes us down a dark and twisted area that I wasn't prepared for. And it's a horror. So like, I'm okay with that in the grand scheme of they're taking souls. But to even see where Pranky was to the point of like, oh, hell no. And you almost actually feel bad. Yeah.
I get to know why Pranky's the way he is a little bit.
It
filled in a hole.
It did. It gives you a heavy hint as to what happened to him as a Boy Scout. And
shit. I didn't even put that together.
Yeah, it is freaking dark, dude. But it continues to be
so good, though. Yeah,
so good. You're caught up on Hyde Street.
I think I missed one issue, but I've read the recent one.
So I know you said it's good, but what were your kind of takeaways from this most recent issue?
I think this similar to you. It was like you felt for him, and you're like, that's why he is the way he is. And then when you learn that about, because you're feeling bad for this one guy, and then it just kind of twists. And I don't really want to say anything more because I feel like
I feel like if you should be able to kind of pick up what we're putting down at this point, maybe. But yeah, it's pretty crazy, man. I would absolutely recommend.
No one's innocent on Hyde Street.
No, at all. And there's reasons for everybody. It is extraordinary. Go pick that up. But the next thing I read was Thing issue number 2. Now, this is Tony Fleeks, Justin Mason, Alex Sinclair, Joe Caramagna. If you know anything, his old bully, Marty Flynn is looking for his niece. So he comes to ask, Ben Grimm, hey, help me out. So where we left off in this issue is they meet Bullseye now. And it's really funny because Ben Grimm's essentially like, hey, you're throwing ninja stars at me and it doesn't hurt me, dude. And then he's even like, where's this guy's niece? And what's funny is Bullseye is just essentially, dude, I'm not even that. Why would you think I'm not even that kind of bad guy? I would never hurt a kid. And so it's kind of,
I love when villains say stuff like that. Like,
right,
I wouldn't do that.
He's like,
when
whoa, dude.
Joker, I feel like there was something with Joker where he's like, yeah, I'm not that evil. Come on, man.
He's like, I'm evil. I'm not that bad. That's what Bullseye was essentially like.
They were like, when they talk about like Nazis and stuff, they're like, I'm not a Nazi. Like, sure,
Yeah.
I kill people. I'm not a Nazi.
When they're
like,
bad guys or won't cross a certain line, it's like,
yes,
woof.
I love it. Or like when Homelander rolls his eyes at Stormfront talking about Nazis. It's fantastic. He's like, could you just stop with that crap?
Yeah, even they have lines.
Opportunity evil guy.
You're just, okay, hold on a second. This is kind of crazy. But yeah, that's essentially what happens with Bullseye. And then there is another surprise character that shows up in this one that I think people are gonna it wasn't like a big whoa this guy, but is a pretty well-known Marvel character that I think is pretty cool as they weave some things into here. And there's a pretty good take on bullying where the guy essentially has been bragging about how he bullied Ben Grimm growing up, and he was essentially, why would you brag about that still? And he goes, because I'm the only guy that can say he beat up the Thing. And Ben kind of looks at him with this just feel bad for you kind of look, and also a forgiveness look that I thought was really well done in the art. So it's really solid. Next, I did, the New History of the DC Universe by Mark Waid, Todd Nauck, Jerry Ordway, Matt Herms, John Cleese. This is the new fresh, basically, this is how the DC Universe, this is their fresh start. This is their history. And Flash, Barry Allen's retired, but he's breaking down the history of the DC from the very get-go, all the way to the beginning of time. And this kind of leaves us right around, the Silver Age comics where those kind of pick up. So this is issue 1. There's going to be multiple issues. I actually have it right here. The artwork is really good. I would recommend anybody pick it up. And especially because it can be really hard to essentially decide like, hey, I don't know the history of comic books, and there's a bunch of heroes that we don't know of and call back to. And so it could be a good reference point for folks. I'm sure there's be a compendium at some point. Aside from that, Predator versus Spider-Man issue 3 from Ben Percy, Marcelo Ferreira, Jay Leiston, Frank Darmada. This one is another really good banger issue, setting up for the final issue, which I'm not ready for. Craven's still hunting. He wants, New York City to be a blackout. Spider-Man goes
Goofy.
I do, yeah. Goofy became Spider-Man. That's one of the things, the ads.
Oh, that's fun. We're gonna have to grab that
and,
one.
It's essentially Spider-Man's facing off against 3 different predators who are hunting down the main predator. Mary Jane has to hide in a pile of living rats. It's gross. And then another one that's Spider-Man and Wolverine, issue 2, Mark Guggenheim, Brian Reber, Carrie Andrews. This one
was really good. I haven't read this one.
Oh, I will bring it to you.
It's already in my box at my comic shop.
I was going to say,
They put.
I don't want to spoil, but just know like there's some really good artwork in this, and it goes hard. These two beat the shit out of each other, man. Peter is enraged. It's the way, if you've read the first one, the way it was cliffhangered, it was setting up a big fight.
Yeah.
They don't hold anything back in this. It is gnarly. Pick that one up. I got Mr. Terrific Year 1, Issue 2 from Al Letson, Valentine DeLandro, Marissa Luis, Edwin Gallman.
And we're getting him in the movie.
Yeah. Lucas Gattoni. Geez, I can speak. I'm sorry. This is basically Michael Holtz contemplating suicide. And Spectre comes and gives him that, the Christmas spirit talk, basically going through life, and he's going through his past. And if you still want to commit suicide, I'll see you.
Kind of thing.
Yeah. And I think Mr. Terrific is going to be very important to what DC's doing with their All In series, as well as what they're setting up for. And so Spectre's like, hey man, if you still want to kill yourself, I won't stop you. And it kind of goes from there. So this is his origins now in this All In DC universe. Really good. He's lost his wife and unborn kid, and he feels bad because he didn't want a kid, but then once they passed away, it's all he could think of wanting. So it's it was deep, dark, man. And then Absolute Wonder Woman issue 9 came out. I love that. So Kelly Thompson, Hayden Sherman, Jordi Belair, Becca Carey. Loving this. Dr. Poison kind of lays a trap for Diana. She's very bullheaded in this. And there's not much more I can say without spoiling that one. I'm loving that series. And then the last thing that I've read was the Vigilante Eagly double feature, issue 4 from DC Comics. James Gunn is the story consultant. Tim Seeley, Mitch Gerrits, Rex Ogle, Matteo Lolli, John Calise. I will say there's a couple scenes, like it kicks right off with a Vigilante essentially playing with a used condom and trying to find what's up with Peacemaker. And then there's a scene of an old lady getting banged out by somebody else. And I was basically like, oh my God, guys, give a guy a warning. Jesus, this is tough. It's very funny, very hilarious. It is crazy. And I think more people should read this, in all honesty. So that's what I've been reading. I'll take a breath before I talk about the two things I've been watching a little bit, so you can talk about your book of the month.
So my book, I only read one book this month for Nerd Initiative because we were doing a book club. So if you want novel recommendations in addition to comic book recommendations, you can go to nerdinitiative.com and type in a book review. Somebody this month actually reviewed Jaws, the one by Peter Benchley, from the 70s. Somebody else reviewed the book called Supermarket, which sounds very interesting and was actually written by Logic, who's like a rapper as well. And so I did Duma Key, which is the Stephen King book that actually Ernie Altbacker, who we had on the podcast a few weeks ago, recommended when we went off on a tangent about Stephen King books. So I grabbed that one. It was very interesting. It takes place on the west coast of Florida, which obviously I love that because I'm getting Florida references and I'm familiar with the area. This guy basically he has like 2 grown kids, they're like in college, and a wife. And he gets into this terrible accident. It's like a worksite accident. And he ends up losing one of his arms. He loses his right arm. He has issues. He's like in physical therapy. Got bad head injury. So he forgets things. And he gets very angry too. So he's dealing with all these things. Something happens with his wife that he doesn't even remember, to the point where his wife's like, look, I can't be married to you anymore. So in a very quick matter of moments, yes, he's divorced. And he's, disabled and he's struggling, and, it's hard for him to even walk without being in pain. He's on a lot of drugs and everything. So one of his friends is like, look, and his therapist is like, look, you need to just go somewhere else, check out, kind of regroup, kind of restart and get, a fresh kind of start. And so he ends up at Duma Key, which is, it's a made up key, I believe, but it's off the coast of like Sarasota. And,
is it hidden from everybody else?
Oh, well. Haha. So he ends up, eventually he meets the neighbors. He comes around and somebody's like, well, what's something you used to love to do that you haven't done in a while? It's like, I used to love to draw. They're like, you should draw. So he starts drawing and it becomes this thing that kind of takes over, and he's really good at it. And people start to recognize that he's really good at it. But then it's like, how much of it is talent and how much of it is there's supernatural shit going on.
Oh.
And there's a supernatural reference in it that actually goes to mythology. And they bring in the whole, because he's on the ocean. So there's shit going on. And it's a lot of stuff going on. And it's really good. I will still say Salem's Lot is still my favorite Stephen King book. Haven't read that many, but my collection is slowly building. But this was a really good book. This one came out in like 2008. So if you've only
so it's kind of relatively newer.
Yeah, for Stephen King, yeah, because we're used to
that's what I mean.
All his like 70s and 80s stuff, yeah. But no, it was really good. It's about 600 pages, so it's a solid read. It's not like a super fast read, but it's not like The Stand, which I have The Stand and I just haven't started it because it's so freaking long.
Daunting, man. I'm telling you. Sometimes you can read those, but I feel like sometimes it's just the pure volume of how large the book is that kind of gets you intimidated to start reading. But then you start reading it and next you're done in no time. So
right. Well, for me, I feel like usually the first half of the book I'll read a little slower, and then once it hits that like pivotal, then I'll like fly through the second half.
You really just want to like take your time, but then like you said,
and you're not as sucked in. I feel like it happens to me a lot where all of a sudden I can't put the book down and I'm reading, 2 pages while I'm standing in the kitchen because I just want to keep reading. But my full review is up on Nerd Initiative if anybody wants to hear a little more about
That's right.
that.
All of our comic and book reviews are up on nerdinitiative.com, by the way. Make sure you go check that out. I would kill to be on a Disney cruise reading a book right now. Gosh, something about that just sounds so good. Yes. Something you got to do, you son of a...
I did. I read some of this book on the balcony of my cruise ship this past weekend. We have to go back because the Star Wars bar is really cool. By the time this episode has come out, I will have a TikTok showing the Star Wars bar
on the boat.
Oh, and yes. Okay.
You didn't. What?
I thought you knew.
No.
Okay. So this is the podcast, The Princess and the Scoundrel. They've gone on like meet and greets there for the Hyperspace Lounge. So it's just a little kind of bar, and the screen will go like you're in yeah, we went on the Wish. We went in hyperspace and it changes scenes. And so we went there all 3 nights. All 3 nights before dinner, I wanted to sit in there. And so we finally sat at the bar and I asked guys. So I had heard there was a $5,000 drink. And I'm looking at, they give you like basically an iPad because it's a data pad to look at the drinks. And I see the $5,000 drink. So I asked the guy, I'm like, okay, what is this about? I've heard about this.
Yeah. Now I remember that. I didn't.
Yes. So you get a drink. It comes in the ice cream maker kind of thing, like that they, use in the movie. You can actually buy that at Hollywood Studios now.
You didn't buy the drink, right?
Gives you, you know what? Josh was in such a good mood and Crypto was doing so good. I think if I had really wanted to, he probably would have, but I was not. Wow. Because what you get 4 tickets to George Lucas's vineyard in Sonoma. And you
would have taken me, right?
And absolutely, but we didn't buy it.
She says that.
But it's open. It's not open to the public. So this is, I don't know if this is the only way that us common folk can visit.
I think it is, unless you have.
But Josh was,
tracks. I don't know.
Josh was going to get a glass of wine, and he's like the wine he wanted was like $37. It was from George Lucas's vineyard. He's like, yeah, I think I'm just going to get a beer.
I would drink that wine. I'm the stupid idiot that pays that just to be like, I drank wine from George Lucas's vineyard.
I don't even know what beer I drank. I was upset because, I wasn't upset, but it's hard to be upset. But they usually have a Mustafar Black Ale, and I was excited to get that. And they're like, oh, we're out of that, but we have an IPA, so I got the IPA.
So that means we got to go back.
And they had a sour, 100%.
Oh my gosh, I want to go on this so bad now.
I know.
30% off. All right.
But I'm gonna make a TikTok. I did, and the guy was so sweet too. He's like, when the Star, it was a Star Cruiser. He's like, when the Star Cruiser gets to this line, that's when it's gonna go hyperspeed, because he could tell I wanted to get a video. Oh. So the bartenders were really sweet.
Well, when we're in Asheville this weekend, we got a couple cruises we got to talk about anyways. So maybe we'll see. All right. Anyways, I wanted to talk about a couple things that I've watched. Ironheart I've watched, but I got to rewatch because I wasn't fully engaged because I was reading, because I had to read for the podcast, All-Star Superman.
And I fell asleep. But we're going to do a full...
Yeah, we're going to break it down. We're probably going to actually watch it at Asheville this weekend while we're chilling in a hot tub drinking beers. And then we're going to wrap it up next week when the 6th episode. So don't worry, we're going to do a full breakdown to give it the deserved attention, because what I can tell you so far... Go ahead.
I was just going to say, and we'll comment on, because there was references to Black Panther that some people might not have caught.
There was more. Oh man, there was something that I forgot. I think we knew who this character was, but I forgot. And when they said the name, I was just, oh. And so far the show was really good. I can say that much. So I want to rewatch it and catch the references and really dive in. It's just
dropping 3 really episodes good. At 9 p.m.
That's really hard. I'm old.
I'm a night person, but still, we didn't sit down to watch it until 10:30. I just could not keep my eyes open, man.
Not even a try. But I did watch 28 Years Later. Danny Boyle's film came out. I won't spoil it just in case.
I haven't watched any of these. We're doing this at Halloween, right? Aren't we doing all these at Halloween?
We'll need to, because this movie is really good. A lot of people had issues with it, but I think that media literacy is just kind of dead anyways. People don't know what they want in films. You want an original film? We get an original film. They complain. You want, we give, I don't know. People are just, media literacy is dead, and people cannot actually sit and think about a movie after they watch it. And so they have complaints. This movie is good. I liked it a lot. Aaron Taylor Johnson was in it. He did a really good job. Ralph Fiennes was probably the best part of the movie. Alfie Williams is the kid. He crushes it. I thought the cinematography and the sound design was really well done. And there's a lot of references to 28 Days Later and things like that I need to go back and kind of catch. So yes. Now let's take a quick commercial break, and we'll be right back with some news. All right. There's news, Lauren. If only you guys could see the note. There's a wonderful picture of me dying of heat stroke and sweat.
So I just learned I could do this because I'm on my iPad. Matt put in the news section that there's a live action Bratz film with Kim Kardashian. So I was writing is this news? I never let my kids watch or play with Bratz. I'm not a Kardashian fan. So I went to add the puking emoji to this while he was talking. And I didn't know that you can add stickers because I'm on my iPad. I didn't know you could add stickers to Google Docs. And so I added a sticker of Matt super sweaty making a face really?
That is not news, but I figured somebody out there, Bratz was something my younger sister played with. So
I didn't let Kaylee.
I don't care
I didn't like how they
about
looked.
that. So.
But something I do care about, the Negan and Maggie show just wrapped. I'm sorry. I Once I realized I could put that in there. So the Negan and Maggie show just wrapped, and Daryl Dixon has officially been announced season 3 for September 7th. So there you go. I'm excited for that. And you know what I just learned? So we're leaving tomorrow to start meeting you in Asheville. We're spending some time in Jekyll Island, which was already the plan.
Is Hyde
and I
there?
learned today that they filmed some of The Walking Dead in Jekyll Island on the Driftwood Beach, which we're already planning on going to.
No, I had a good joke. Was Hyde there? No? Okay. Well,
he's only there when Jekyll's not.
Top Gun 3's happening. Speaking of thirds, Maverick will be facing an existential crisis. First of all, the dude's like 60 something. He's still not flying fighter jets. I'm sorry. Tom Cruise, I'm sorry. Am I going to be there seated night one? Yes. However,
is it because
I guess
your
that's
eyes
happening.
go the older you get?
Well, that and like you're probably retired. I don't know. Well, typically, first of all, if you're 60 something and still like a captain in the Navy, you know, you're probably really shitty. And so they force retired you at a certain point. But what do I know, man? I don't know anything. Now, there is a Mummy film that just wrapped up. It's coming April 2026. I'm excited.
God, when was the last time we got one? It's been a while.
That awful Tom Cruise one, actually. Remember when
Tom Cruise was in The Mummy?
Remember when they tried to reboot their Dark Universe and Tom Cruise and Russell Crowe and them were in The Mummy?
Wait, we're not talking Mummy, Brendan Fraser Mummy, are we?
I don't know what I think this is a reboot because actually speaking of, Oliver watched the Brendan Fraser Mummy and he really liked it.
Well,
but
ones
I don't
good.
know this. I think this is rebooting the Mummy franchise. I want to say I haven't heard anything about it. I came across this, so more to come. I didn't know they were filming this, but yeah, there's one last piece of news. Were you an X-Files fan?
No.
Oh, well, I like Legos and there's an X-Files Lego set in the works. So somebody's going to be happy about that. I'm interested to see I never watched the show, really. I kind of bits and pieces. So I'm curious what they would have on it. I don't know. Somebody's happy about that.
Supernatural references to X-Files. And a lot of people from X-Files worked on Supernatural.
Doesn't surprise me at all, actually. Does not surprise me at all. Well, let's go ahead, take another break, and we will be back with Man of Steel, Batman v Superman in just a moment. All right, dudes, it's Man of Steel time. This film came out in 2013, starring Henry Cavill, Amy Adams, Michael Shannon, Diane Lane, Lawrence Fishburne, Russell Crowe, and so many more. David Goyer wrote the screenplay with the help of Christopher Nolan. Zack Snyder directed. This movie made $670 million. I actually watched this movie on my first deployment in the military. Fun fact, back when you could buy bootleg DVDs from the on-base person that would sell bootleg DVDs and you needed something to watch. So that's how I watched this. I watched it bootleg in a tiny little moldy infested shack on my laptop.
You know, when I put this on, because this came out 2013, so Josh and I had already been married. Brielle was already born. And so I asked him, I go, do you remember the first time you watched this? And he's like, I don't think I've seen this. So I probably watched it by myself when it came on DVD or streaming or something. Because I don't know that if he hadn't seen it, although he falls asleep a lot. But so, yeah, I think I just watched this by myself at home. But I definitely remember watching it. You don't forget shirtless
That's
Henry
true.
Cavill.
Henry Cavill. I know we'll get into it, but I liked this movie. We'll dive into it. Why don't you go ahead and give us the breakdown of this film before we kind of go into our thoughts and fun facts?
So we start how all Superman movies start, on Krypton with a baby Kal-El. However, this movie goes into some more detail. We learn that Kal is the first natural birth in centuries. We also see that Jor-El and Zod were once close, but as Kal is launched to Earth, along with the Codex that will continue their people, Zod actually stabs Jor-El. Zod is then arrested for murder and high treason and sentenced as he threatens Lara that he'll find Kal-El, and he is sent up to space in prison. We then watch Lara watch the end of Krypton. And you could tell there was a familiarity between the two of them, the way he's talking to her, which you pointed out is Vanessa. So it's Mrs.
Vanessa!
Zeus and Wilson Fisk's wife have a baby.
No wonder Fisk is so protective.
Right. She's sleeping with gods. So flash forward, no pun intended, to a grown-up Clark working on a ship. There's an oil rig nearby where all the men are about to die, so Clark decides to go and save them. As he floats, We see, he saves them and then he falls into the water. And as he's floating, there's some humpbacks, a little mom and a baby, super cute. And we see flashbacks of when he gets his powers and when they start to kick in and he like completely loses his mind because it looked terrifying.
Yeah.
He sees like the teacher's like muscles and skeleton and organs and stuff. And then Clark learns that he isn't from this world. So then we go back to grown-up Clark and he's waiting tables until a customer dumps a beer on his head and he dips, but not before he puts the guy's truck up on
time
hold.
out. Who just randomly dumps a beer on a big beefy man like Henry Cavill in a bar? This guy is not any match for normal human being. Henry Cavill looks like somebody who would just pick you up in a bear hug and crush your body into pieces in 2 seconds.
Right.
So the fact that he just throws a beer starting a fight. Who in their right mind?
Well, this is the same guy that was mean to Castiel in Supernatural. So maybe there was quite a few Supernatural people. One of the guys on Krypton, that's Death. Gadriel was one of the people that like got Amy Adams off the helicopter. There's quite a few Supernatural people. Okay.
I did not know that. Okay.
All right, so then we meet Lois Lane. She's getting off of a helicopter in Canada. Gadriel greets her, and Clark is helping with her bags. There's something under the ice. Lois goes out at night to take pictures and sees Clark and follows him, as one does. Lois ends up getting hurt, and Clark immediately tells her he can do some stuff and cauterizes her wound. Clark disappears after that, along with the ship in the ice. Lois says it's all alien, but Perry tells her, no, it's not. Don't run that story. Turns out the ship was from... I'm going to do it. The ship was actually from when the Kryptonians had stations on so many different planets. Jor-El meets Cal and fills him in and shows him the Superman costume. Obviously, it's the hologram of Jor-El. Back to Lois, who does some investigating and hunts down Clark. She makes it to his mom and finds him. He tells her about his dad, and then we get a horrible flashback of Jonathan Kent saving the dog and forcing Clark to let a tornado kill him. I feel like this was one of the moments I remembered the most when I watched it because I hated it. Like watching Kevin Costner just tell him, like, no, stop. Why didn't you just let Clark go out there? Why didn't you, like, you knew he would have been fine. You knew he was going to be invulnerable, and it could have just been like, oh, miracle of God that he survived. This was unnecessary.
Yeah. Yes.
But I guess we got to let Jonathan die. Even though because I've been reading some of the comics this past week, which I've never done before. Some of the comics, Jonathan's still alive. Why did we have to kill him? Whatever. He's got to go back to the ocean and with his gills and webbed feet. All right, so back to the present. Something has entered the atmosphere. Zod tells everyone, everywhere, in every language, on TVs, everywhere, that they are not alone. And he tells everyone he wants Kal-El, and he should surrender in 24 hours or the world will suffer. As the FBI grabs Lois, because they know she knows some stuff, Clark goes to a priest, which I thought was very interesting, who basically tells him to surrender to Zod. Clark then shows up as Superman and says he'll surrender if they let Lois go. As Superman surrenders to Zod, they now demand Lois come too, up in the spaceship. Clark begins to spit blood and pass out. Here, Clark learns that the destruction of Krypton freed Zod and the others, and his body has gotten so used to Earth that he can't handle the atmosphere in their spaceship.
Yes, I actually liked that addition into there, honestly.
No, it makes complete sense. And it works when both ways.
He takes it off and he's just like, I'm weak and everything like that. And you don't really see that. Meanwhile, the Kryptonians learn that Clark holds the Codex in him, and he doesn't need to be alive for the Codex to be retrieved, which is a really cool sequence too, where there's just a bunch of dead bones and skulls and all that stuff. But Lois finds Clark, and says that she knows how to stop them after talking to Ghost, Zor-El. Clark flies right up into the spaceship, explodes it. Lois then goes to plug in Jor-El, but it's a no-go as Zod destroyed his AI. As Lois falls from the ship because she just loves dramatically falling from things, Lois then crashed into another ship. A ship that intentionally crashed into another Kryptonian ship. Superman saves her. They make out in front of Lois's boss. Ew, gross. Now it's Cal versus Zod. Zod explains he exists only to protect Krypton, as that's why he was created, but now he has no people, so he's going to kill all of the humans, kill as many as he needs to. As Zod is trying to laser a family to death, Clark reluctantly breaks his neck. He breaks his neck. He breaks his neck. Very upsetting for Clark, who goes, and then destroys a surveillance drone at the very end, telling the military to back off. He's here to help, but he needs to do it his way. and you're never going to find out where I live, General.
Do it
And
my
it's nothing.
way.
It's just he's kind of hot.
I know that
but
was
yeah,
stupid and unnecessary. Like, yes, he's hot. We know that. But like, come on, dude. What are we doing this like 1950s? Like, oh, he's so handsome. I can't
but he's
think
so
straight.
hot. First of all, a captain isn't going to
Come
say that to a
on.
general. Like, be so real.
That was
Anyways,
so stupid. Yeah. This
Clark-
wasn't like
Clark-
over some
yeah.
beers or something.
oh God. Clark ends this movie by showing up at the Daily Planet as him. But yeah, that's the movie.
Yep. And Lois is very happy. So she knows who he is from the get-go. I actually very much so like that.
All right, let's talk about our thoughts and reactions. And you like that she knows who he is from the get-go. I don't disagree with that. I'm okay with that. I think Amy Adams was actually a good Lois.
Mhm.
I feel like with a better script, she could, because she has the Lois spunk to her, right? She's very assertive,
Tiny and fierce,
boss girl, and that kind of stuff. I don't mind that, and I actually think it's kind of cool that she shows up into the Fortress of Solitude, essentially, with Superman and everything like that. I think that was kind of cool with the robots and stuff. That was all kind of really rad. And she finds out through her detective work with the paper who it is, and then ends up letting that go. That I actually like. It's definitely a different departure from the other Superman film we got, where Lois never really knows who Clark is, and then when she does, it gets erased from her memory.
and
which
I
is
hated
dumb.
that because she knew. Yeah, I didn't like that
Yeah,
because
I don't
Lois
like it at
was
all.
intelligent. Lois would
Yeah.
figure it out.
Not to mention, those two are supposed to be together, be
Yeah.
together. So it's stupid that in those movies, she never knew who he was. They even had a kid together. It's kind of whack.
I feel like they ruined it when they said, for you to be with somebody, you have to give up your powers. I feel like that's when they were. And you know what? In Smallville, Tom Welling's Clark, he did give up his powers.
Which I think is dumb because.
But he was married to Lois, though, in the finale. So they were married before he chose to do that, which means he had years of being Superman,
which is
before
fine.
He gave it powers,
right? Because that works fine for me because Lois Lane would never ask or have Superman give up his powers,
right?
Never, ever.
Well,
that's not their relation.
That's one of the reasons I love Superman and Lois so much, the CW show, because you see him being Superman and balancing having kids, and he's trying. You can't have it all, whether you're a man or a woman. You can't have it all, and you see Superman struggle with that, and I love that.
I agree. That's a big win for me. I also really liked the guy who is in Law and Order, the big white guy who's the military guy in this movie. I don't remember his name, but he's the pilot who sacrifices himself. He's a badass.
Oh yeah,
He's going to stand toe to toe with the Kryptonians.
Oh, he's from Oz. He's from a bunch of stuff.
He's in a lot of stuff. He's a big TV actor. And I thought he was really, really cool when he stood up to the Kryptonians and then he crashes the plane. He had a really cool death. I didn't want him to die, but he had a really
something
cool
about
death.
an honorable death. Yeah, that was good.
Yeah. Now, I like the costume design. What do you think about the costume design? We don't have underoos.
I love him and Tyler Hoechlin. Those are my two favorite. I don't like the underoos. The underoos are not sexy, guys. They're not sexy.
We've got to get unsexy because.
And who is sexy? Henry Cavill and Tyler Hoechlin.
Very, very much. I agree. There are all right. So I do want to talk about Zod's death real quick before we also talk about massive death. So Zod's death.
Shannon, I love him. Look at him
Michael
in
Shannon's
this, and
great
look at him in Night Before. Oh, so great. Okay,
Michael Shannon's really good because Michael Shannon was Pearl Harbor was my first introduction to Michael Shannon, and he was great.
I didn't remember he was in that.
Yeah, he was one of the mechanics. And anytime Michael Shannon's in a movie, he's gonna crush it. He's such a killer actor. And so
even when he's just a weed dealer, in The Night Before, he's so good.
He's such a good actor. And so actually Zod's death in the original script, Zod was going to get sucked into the Phantom Zone. However, Snyder and Goyer felt it was very unsatisfying. So they asked DC if Superman would kill somebody if he didn't have a choice. Now, Christopher Nolan, who helped out with these films, was against this approach, which led to Goyer coming up with the scene with the heat vision and putting people in imminent danger. And this convinced Nolan. So this is a very, very controversial thing that happens. People have an issue with this. What are your thoughts before I give mine?
My thoughts that are, if I was actually a superhero, I would end up becoming a villain because I think that Superman was right. I loved the scene. I think there's times with Magneto where I side with Magneto. Obviously not when he's flip-flopping like crazy in movies like Phoenix. But X-Men 97, he makes some good points. And in the comics, he makes some good points. And I really think that the more the older I get, the more I kind of side with some of these anti-hero villains. I thought it was a fantastic scene. I mean, he tried so hard to stop him, and then when he just did that neck-breaking thing, and then you see him screaming, like, yeah, that's got to be traumatizing. Like, he didn't want to be responsible for this person.
He was one of his own people.
Especially knowing, yes, now he is officially the last Kryptonian, when he thought that, oh, there can be other people and we can exist. And that whole point was Jor-El wanted him to be the bridge between them. So not only did he kill the only Kryptonian, and not only did he kill, but he also ruined any chance of being what his father wanted him to be, and being that bridge between humans and Kryptonian.
Exactly.
But I mean, he did what he had to do, and he wasn't wrong. I thought it was fantastic.
I very much agree. I know people. It's Superman has killed before. Superman kills aliens.
Well, his son killed in Superman Returns.
So I don't have a problem with this because it makes a lot of sense, right? He tried every possible situation and scenario not to kill Zod. He tried to reason with him. He tried to beat him into submission.
Somebody say he could cover his eyes,
but what was the end game? Zod was never going to stop. So the only the only way he possibly, and he put him in this impossible situation. Fine, I'm going to start killing humans. So either you're going to kill me or you're going to let me kill humans off, and I'm going to do what I want. And so it makes a lot of sense that Superman who's learning to be a Superman. This is his first big moment as Superman. Yeah, he has to kill Zod. I have no problem with this. Absolutely no problem. It makes a lot of sense. And anybody who complains about that, I think you're just kind of dumb, honestly. Sorry. Unless I hear a really good argument back, other than Superman doesn't kill. No, Batman doesn't kill. Okay. Unless you're Michael Keaton, Ben Affleck,
neither does Daredevil,
live action Batman. But you just seriously,
Daredevil doesn't kill.
But then it's like, how many Marvel heroes are running through the streets shooting
maybe
people?
Foggy would be around.
Also true. So
Iron Man kills no problem. He takes people out left and right.
And he sleeps just like a baby at the end of the day. Okay, so don't give me this holier than thou.
The things that keep him up are not the people he's killed.
Right. But Superman chose Earth. And by choosing Earth, he had to do what was necessary, which was kill a Kryptonian, which was Zod. No issues there. I really liked the fight sequences with the Kryptonian. I liked the girl. She was a badass woman. I'm terrible with names.
Ooh,
I can pull it up.
So she's Farah Lou. So she's also in The Flash. And so Gal Gadot was actually originally cast for that role, but had to drop out when she got pregnant. But funny enough.
Oh, was that?
She was pregnant again while doing reshoots for Wonder Woman, and they CGI'd her belly by putting like a green screen on her tummy. That's our first fun fact.
Yes.
She was much more fleshed out character-wise than in the Christopher Reeve one, that's for sure.
Yes, she was. I liked it. So I liked her. I thought that I don't also have a problem with buildings and things being destroyed because it's Superman.
Well, Batman does.
I know, but people also complained about mass destruction, right? Ooh, meanwhile, Godzilla is running through San Francisco, blowing it to hell. Boston gets wiped off the map. Or not to mention, in any comic book medium, like look at the Doomsday fight. When him and Doomsday fight in comic books and Death of Superman, they wreck the city pretty good. They fight How many times have we seen the city get wrecked or cities get wrecked in comic books? When you have powerful characters, that's what's going to happen, man. Unfortunately. They rebuilt pretty quickly, I think, by BVS, but...
Well, there's always one, super rich person like Tony Stark to pay to get it all fixed up. Of course, then you get more villains like Vulture, who then goes and scoops up the alien tech, and it just creates more fun stories. But that's one of the things I loved about Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. too, because before they ventured so far away from the MCU, which I still have hope, if anybody's going to New York Comic Con, you will see Coulson, Daisy, and the Cavalry. All three of them will be there. Maybe I'm just wishful thinking, but Hugh Jackman played Wolverine again in the yellow suit and part of the MCU. So my crazy wishful thinking has come true before. So maybe we will see the three of them in the MCU, and maybe that announcement will be made at New York Comic Con. I don't know, maybe. But here's hoping. But yeah, so in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., I remember after Thor Dark World, they were on the ground cleaning that up. So I thought that was cool to just it was like Andor. You get a different perspective from the war that's going on. So I thought that was really cool. But I mean, it was a lot of destruction, and where do you go and where do you hide? But the Lombard character, the actor?
Yeah.
So he actually kills the new Lois Lane in House of Cards. I just ruined that.
Oh, wow.
Spoiler warning.
Actually,
I thought that was funny.
Interesting. I did not know. I've never watched the show, but another thing that I thought was a really good scene, that scene with Perry White, where he's holding that woman's hand as she's trapped under the rubble and he's just looking at her, accepting death. That was a powerful scene too, man. I thought that was a really powerful scene because
Well, I mean, they cast a great person to play Perry White. I mean, that was
Lawrence Fishburne was
powerful
really
actor.
good.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I thought he really was. Morpheus did great, man. I really liked his Perry White. He was,
Well, it's funny. The Perry White in Smallville is actually Annette O'Toole's husband in real life.
Oh,
And so,
interesting.
yeah, so it was, Lana Lang turned Martha. Yeah, so that's fun. But he played a drunk in that. He was like an alcoholic who like Clark had to like take his keys and drive him. So it was a very, very different Perry White than, because I think that was the first Perry White I really recognized as Perry White. Because they're usually just characters that are just kind of in the background, aren't really relevant.
They aren't. Right. You're totally right on that one. But he was solid. I like, there's a lot of
Lawrence Fishburne can't be in the background.
No, he's too big. I mean, that's kind of what are some other thoughts? How do we feel? Oh God, that tornado scene. I hate the tornado scene.
So according to Kevin Costner's tombstone, he was 46 when he died. Did he look 46?
No.
I mean, I'm about to be 42. Like, he did not look 46. But I already said my thoughts on that. Yeah, it was terrible.
And
I mean, they didn't have to kill Jonathan. They could have, maybe because it was Kevin Costner, so cast somebody who would be cheaper and let him live a little longer.
Yeah. I especially because they did a really good job of making Diane Lane look older, but Kevin Costner didn't look 46. No. And I will say they did a good job with making Henry Cavill look younger in that, and his voice too. It's funny hearing him speak as young Clark because I'm so used to his voice being deeper and heavier, but he sounds younger. Like he did a great job, at that point.
Yeah.
And so I thought that was excellent. I liked that the story was told kind of through flashbacks, and you got kind of his flashbacks there, such as saving the bus and seeing people from his past. I do like that. So this movie overall, though, I really enjoy this movie. I will say that. I think it is a good movie. So why don't you, if you take us into some fun facts before we go into BVS?
So extra workouts and less food were involved before Cavill's shirtless scenes to give the best possible Superman look. So he really wanted to look like the comic book.
He was eating 5,000 calories a day.
Yeah. You look at him versus, Hugh Jackman. Like Hugh Jackman does the dehydration and he gets the abs, and obviously he looks phenomenal and he's, very much so jacked. But the comic book versions of these characters are
sometimes a little
right. And so they're jacked, but they're not lean. And like Hugh Jackman is lean, like he's, a dancer and he's musical Broadway, whereas like Henry Cavill really went for that like absolute Batman, like jacked as much as you could actually be. So as a reward though for these scenes, and that was his decision. I don't believe that he was pushed to do that. It sounds like he wanted to, yes. Zack Snyder had pizza and ice cream ready for him after those scenes as a reward. Cavill also insisted not shaving his chest. He used the death of Superman to show Superman can have a hairy chest. Again, he's a freaking dude. Let him have hair on his chest.
I have no problem with that either.
Yeah, I draw the line at back hair. But chest hair, he's a guy. Let him have the hair on his chest. It's okay. Not every dude who's ripped has to shave or wax his chest. So Cavill is the first non-American to be cast as Superman. He was previously cast in the Superman Flyby, which was canceled to make Superman Returns. What?
Interesting. Yeah. And, Amy Adams was cast as Lois Lane in that one too.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, dude.
Both of them have done all these different things too. And obviously she was a character in Smallville too. So this isn't her first time in the Superman world. The film was released in June 2013, which was the 75th anniversary of Superman's debut in Action Comics number 1. That's
pretty cool.
So did you know the naked 4-year-old? Remember we talked about the naked 4-year-old in the Superman 1978? He's a communications officer in this.
That is crazy. Imagine being like, hey, remember that time you were naked in the 1978 film? Do you want to come back and play a small role? I would. So First of all, I'd be all over that.
We did see a naked Kal-El in this too, but it was an infant.
Yes. In that whole sequence.
Not like a 4-year-old.
God bless. It was okay. Yeah. Oh boy. Now, according to David S. Goyer, Superman's costume is defined in this film to be an undergarment. All the battle armor goes on top of the suits, but since Superman's a refugee, his outfit doesn't have that gear and would make him defenseless on his own Kryptonian turf. Interesting.
And that makes sense because you see Zod have a similar thing and then put
He has
stuff
his
over
suit.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he comes
Makes
out with,
complete
before he
sense.
breaks out of his big metal casing, that he has that armor over it, and then they go toe to toe with the undersuit. Yeah, I have no problem with that either.
I thought
Now,
that was cool.
as we mentioned last week, we knew that Cavill auditioned for Superman Returns, which Brandon Roth got. Now,
It worked
Ben
out
Aff-
well.
It did. Ben Affleck, aka this universe's Batman, was offered the opportunity to direct before Zack Snyder was hired. He actually turned it down. He was supposed to direct his own Batman movie. I'm still pissed we never got that, but I'll dive into that with BVS.
Maybe we'll get the Buttman movie in
Oh,
Mallrats.
man. While Lex is not in this, you do see LexCorp truck get thrown around at Superman. There is a promotional tie-in comic book revealing that the alien ship Superman encounters in the Arctic was actually carrying his cousin Supergirl. Dope. In the scene where Zod first unleashes his heat vision, a small sign can be seen in the background that says, "Keep calm and call Batman." Na. This was not the first movie with this was the first movie with no Jimmy Olsen, excuse me. It was not safe to hide in an overpass during a tornado. It still isn't because the wind, everything. The scene was almost cut for that reason. They should have just cut it. Let's be honest. They could have just got rid of that one. Man of Steel was going to be the name of the sequel, actually, for Superman Returns, believe it or not. And Joe Manganiello and Tyler Hoechlin were considered for the role, as was Kristen Stewart, Olivia Wilde, Zoe Saldana, and Mila Kunis were also considered for Lois Lane. What a different movie those would have been.
I know, but look, you got like Zoe Saldana. That's Gamora.
It worked out for her.
She didn't get it.
Kristen Stewart as Lois
Wilde
Lane would have been awful.
Isn't Olivia Wilde? She's Psylocke.
Yes, she is.
Mila Kunis probably actually would be a great Lois Lane.
I would think she would probably, out of that bunch right there, she's probably the only one that would have been.
Kristen Stewart. I saw her in a Christmas movie. I think that's the only.
Kristen Stewart, pretty solid actress. She does not, in my opinion, carry
she doesn't have
Lois
that
Lane
spunk.
energy. Yeah,
but Mila Kunis, I mean, if you've seen her in that 70s show as Jackie, I feel like she would have been a great Lois Lane.
I think she would have too. I agree. Now, initially, they took pitches from comic book writers such as Grant Morrison, Jeff Johns, Brad Meltzer, and Mark Waid. Morrison's pitch was similar to his All-Star Superman, while Wade's was his Superman Birthright, which we'll go into next week's comic book discussions. Now, last but not least, development began in 2008 when Warner Brothers took pitches from, like I said, all these other people. And that was because in 2009, a court ruling resulted in Jerry Siegel's family recapturing the rights to Superman's origins and Siegel's copyright. The decision stated that Warner Brothers did not owe the families additional royalties from previous films, but if they did not begin production on a Superman film by 2011, then the Schuster and Siegel estates would be able to sue for lost revenue on an unproduced film. So that's why this film got made. Pretty interesting stuff.
Interesting. I mean, the movie's good.
Yeah.
Big
it is
like Fantastic Four, stuff like that, where they had to keep doing crap.
Right. And now it is
Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice.
Yes.
So I'm going to say, and then I'm going to let you do whatever you need to do. So the premise of this movie was based on the fact that so many people died and things were destroyed when Zod and Superman fought. So instead of thinking, oh, wow, thank goodness Superman is on our side, because in case more aliens show up, he's super strong and he can defend us. That's not what Bruce Wayne thought. Instead, he thought, Superman's super strong. What if he changes his mind and attacks us? We have to kill him now. Because apparently, Ben Affleck's Superman did not watch The Lion King, where he's little now. Maybe he'll be on our side. And that's all I have to say.
Interesting. All right. Whew, yes.
I'm going to mute myself and lean back. Have fun.
Let's talk Batman v Superman. This movie, I saw it at midnight, opening night. Of course, we then got the freaking 3-hour cut, which 3-hour cut was better. I don't know why they love 3 hour like these. I don't know, man. All right. So the plot
is. Wait, there's a 3-hour cut for this?
Yeah, there's a 3-hour cut that's on.
Does that
Max.
actually make it better?
It does. Believe it or not, it does. It adds a lot. Now, in a flashback to his childhood, Bruce Wayne runs from his parents' funeral. He falls into a cave where a circling vortex of bats elevate him back to the surface. In the present, 18 months after his cataclysmic battle with General Zod in Metropolis, Superman has become a controversial figure. Bruce is in Gotham. He's gotten a lot angrier as Batman. He's branding people now, right? Now, Clark Kent wants to condemn Batman's form of justice.
But he's not killing him.
He's not. He wants to bring Batman to justice, essentially, through his Daily Planet articles. And this is when Bruce learns that a Russian weapons trafficker, Anatoly, basically the KG Beast is his comic book name, has been contacting LexCorp, Lex Luthor. Luthor attempts to get June Finch, Junebug, to allow him to import kryptonite because it could be used to subdue Superman. Bruce attends a gala at LexCorp to steal data from LexCorp's thing where Diana Prince steals it from him. And while decrypting the drive, Bruce has this dream. Lois, she's the key! And we know how that goes. And I'm too late, all that. And this is where we also then find out that Lex Luthor knows who every metahuman is. Aquaman's holding his breath underwater because reasons. Anyways, at a widely publicized congressional hearing led by Finch, Superman shows up. A bomb was smuggled in the wheelchair that Homeboy from the beginning is in. He gets blown up. Superman blames himself because he couldn't detect it. It had lead in it. Luthor lures Superman out because he kidnaps Martha. Says, you got to go the Bat versus Superman, God versus man in the ultimate showdown. So they fight. They beat each other around. They team up. They save Martha, and they fight Doomsday. Superman dies. The end. Now, let's talk about this. Was the first live action. This was the first live action movie with Batman and Superman together. Okay, we never got the world's finest with Nicolas Cage.
Oh, that's so sad too that was the first time. But I do love that we got Negan and Maggie, our Martha, and Thomas Wayne. But this was before they were Negan and Maggie, so that's actually kind of cool. But they were still Bella and John Winchester.
They were. Now, the Batsuit. So this movie made $847 million. So it made some money.
A lot of money.
It did. You know, the Batsuit in this film is actually made from a form-fitting fabric as opposed to the armored suits in previous portrayals. And a mechanical suit is featured, which Batman uses in his fight against Superman. Zack Snyder basically said, I had a really strong idea about what I wanted to do. I really wanted to do a sort of fabric-based Batman, not what's become the normal armored Batman. And okay. With Affleck being cast, Snyder then also says that Ben provides an interesting counterbalance to Henry Superman. He has the acting chops to create a layered portrayal of a man who is older and wiser than Clark Kent and bears the scars of seasoned crime fighter. I loved Affleck as Batman. I liked Jeremy Irons as, Alfred. I thought they had really great chemistry. I liked Ben Affleck as Batman and as Bruce Wayne. Excellent.
All the more reason Ben Affleck should have watched Lion King. Scar.
True. Now, I don't think they should have spoiled Wonder Woman in the previews for this film. That should have been a surprise. And originally, Andrew Kevin Walker pitched in 2001, a Batman v Superman idea that was deemed too dark. It would have had Johnny Depp as Batman and Josh Hartnett as Superman.
Now, oh my God. I just went from being like, what? To, I love Josh Hartnett. Oh,
yeah.
I love him.
Josh Hartnett also was wanted for the role that went to Christian Bale for Batman, believe it or not.
Josh Hartnett, though, wasn't acting then, though. He was like, gone from existence for years. He just came back.
Had Superman Returns worked out, that was the movie we were going to get in Christmas of 2009. Fun fact.
Interesting.
Snyder then explained that having the V in the title instead of versus was a way to keep it from being a straight versus movie, even though the most subtle way, which makes no sense in my brain.
V is more legally accurate, too. It's a V in legal documents.
Now, it was actually revamped into a backdoor pilot for the Justice League or a eventual standalone Batman film. And this is the first Batman film that credits Bill Finger. So listen, I think they should have had a Batman solo film with Ben Affleck after Man of Steel before this movie. It would have added some background.
I think a lot of people agree with that.
You could have gotten some depth to Batman. I love Ben Affleck. I didn't mind Wonder Woman, Gal Gadot in this one. I think she was okay as Wonder Woman. There's things to like. I don't like Jesse Eisenberg's Lex. I feel like he could have been a good Lex, but they made him too cartoonish. I don't like that
he wasn't totally relevant in this.
No, he was just there to basically create Doomsday and be like, aha, go fight, which is silly. Right. And I also don't agree that he knows all of the superheroes, which is stupid. Like he knows everybody's secret identity. He knows Batman's identity. No.
Well, he's supposed to be really smart.
Yeah, but I don't agree with that. I mean, keep in mind,
I haven't watched this movie in years. Probably when we did a whole episode on it.
I watched it with Oliver, actually. I watched these with Oliver. Oliver liked them.
I did like seeing Clark and Lois in this. This is the one with the bathtub, right?
Yeah, they hop in the bathtub all steamy and stuff. Ooh, yeah.
I love that scene. So I love the scenes with them.
Clark should be covering football. And then also our girl from Deadpool and Wolverine from the TVA, she's in this movie as one of the people who's testifying against Superman, which is awesome. And
she thinks Peter looks good in that suit.
She's also Annie in Sinners. And so I actually really liked the fight between Batman and Superman. I thought the fight was awesome. And go ahead.
What if both their moms weren't named Martha?
Listen,
that's the main issue with this movie. That's why this movie fails. If he
there
hadn't,
could have been
and
such a
who
better way
calls
to
their
have them
mom
fight.
Martha.
He could
If
have been like,
something-
save Martha. No,
No,
he could
if
have been
I was
like, save my
concerned,
mom.
if I was concerned something was happening to my mom, I wouldn't say, "What about Lori?" I would say, "They're gonna kill my mom." Like
They could have this done way better, right? And also,
that made no sense.
while Batman's backing up, Superman could have easily explained the whole situation as well, too. There's a lot of deconfliction that could have happened. The fight itself was cool. I liked the kryptonite gas. I like that each hero got their hits in. I like the spear. I don't like how it ended. And then I don't like Lois Lane coming in. That's his mom's name. Where'd you come from? How'd you get here so fast? The
Well, somebody
helicopter.
had to
I
tell
know she got
Batman.
a helicopter. Okay. But
Hey,
I don't
in
like
the
that.
comics, though, she's always there too. She does the same thing in the comics.
She
She's
is.
in the action.
She
She's
is.
a
That
reporter.
is fair. You're
Risks
right.
her life, so that was accurate.
You're right. That's comic accurate. I just don't like how it ended. And then I liked a lot of I don't like that Jimmy Olsen was a CIA spy's name and he gets killed. You know, I don't like that. But this does give us probably the best live action cartoonish comic booky Batman beating people's asses, where the warehouse scene where he comes down, you know, he drops the hole in the floor. He puts all the stuff on the guns and shoots their guns out. He's beating some ass. He's killing dudes. Let's be honest. Like, he flies in shooting dudes with his bat plane. And then he also definitely he throws a crate at a guy's head. Yeah, that guy's dead. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, he doesn't kill. It's okay.
But
Nobody,
I do.
If they die later from a brain hemorrhage, it doesn't count.
I like his gauntlets, you know, when he gets shot, blocking knife. I think that's all cool. And I think that stuff works. And then I like the fight with Doomsday. I don't like Doomsday's design at all. Being a creation of Zod, fine. I'm cool with that. Bet. I don't like Doomsday's design. It looks silly. And then I also don't understand I don't get how he dies too. He gets stabbed, but he stabs Doomsday with a freaking kryptonite spear. So Superman should still be okay though. He after getting stabbed. I don't know. It's dumb. That's what I have.
He comes back to life.
That's what I have on that one. Why don't you go ahead and just give us the footnote of Justice League? Because listen, I was so excited for Justice League. We are getting Flash. We're getting all my favorite heroes. And when I tell you that Joss Whedon literally ruined my life. This is, he ruined a lot of people's lives. He's a sex pest, a piece of shit. But he literally ruined my life. I was so excited. I went to Carrie and I think we were actually in Massachusetts visiting, and we went to the IMAX theater at the Jordan's Furniture, which is a legit IMAX. This thing is massive. Pumped. And I'm sitting there like, what am I? Superman's mouth? Because they didn't want to they CGI'd on a mustache. Oh my God, dude. They could have just cut that entire scene out, period, and done something. His mouth was CGI. Oh my God, this movie's an abomination. And then the 4-hour cut I don't mind the 4-hour cut, but I shouldn't have to watch a 4-hour cut of a movie for it to be
4-hour cut
better.
definitely made it better, especially with Cyborg. Cyborg was terrible in the not cut.
Yeah.
They fleshed him out and made him make much more sense in the 4-hour.
They made a lot of things make a lot of sense. So
yeah.
Zack.
And I felt like he was the most just, I don't know, it was like Luke.
He was the
Skywalker
driving force in that movie.
4.
I
It was a little
mean,
too whiny.
Steppenwolf's designs suck, but I thought it was really cool how we get Darkseid teased. He's looking through the portal and stuff at the Justice League. That was bad. We're getting Darkseid.
I think the scene when Superman, when they're all fighting Superman, when they first bring him back, like the scene where he side eyes Flash, that's a phenomenal.
Hello,
scene.
no. Oh my God.
No, but you just see like Flash just looks like shocked.
I think that's cool. You're
he's
right.
fighting them and like he's taking on all of them. Like that is an amazing.
Joss Whedon. Oh my God, he made Batman look like such a punk when he's in that sequence too. The Joss Whedon version
Batman is a punk.
No, he's not. Are you for realsies? I do like that they teased the Diana Bruce romance a little bit because I really like those two together in comic books. That movie sucks. Okay, it got a 6 on IMDb. Okay, the Snyder Cut 7.9. There's not much else to say. Okay, nobody's gonna get me.
Make Jensen Ackles Batman. That'll fix everything.
This is where we leave the movies. All right. The movies are done with the exception of David Corenswet and James Gunn, July 8th. We have tickets July 8th. So we're going to have a full spoiler review out for you the week after. So we want to give people time to see it. However, next week before the movie releases, we are going to break down Superman comic books that you should be reading, Superman's origin in the comic books. And then we're going to talk about characters such as Hawkman, Hawkgirl, Guy Gardner, Lois Lane, Mr. Terrific, Jimmy Olsen, Lex Luthor. We're going to kind of give you their backgrounds on them because we want to get you ready for this movie, man. When Lauren is looking forward to a DC movie over a Marvel film in the summertime that releases like 2 weeks apart, that's how you know this movie's looking to be special. And the trailers,
and he's wearing underoos.
He is. The trailers give me goosebumps. They really do. And I am not a Superman fan by any means, but this movie, it's going to be special. It's hopefully kicking off a new era of DC. We just have to live long enough to get to see where all this goes. Do you have any final thoughts about anything before we kind of wrap this one up?
No, I mean, I really like this movie. I kind of hope that maybe we'll see Henry Cavill one day again in some multiverse kind of thing. If
he
not,
deserves so much better, man.
Bring him more.
Henry Cavill deserves.
I mean, the Marvel will treat him so much better than those guys across the street. But I mean, he's my age, so he just turned 42.
He's a wicked big nerd too, man.
He's a huge nerd. So like, I don't think he should be actually cast as the new Wolverine by any means. But I mean, bring him in as something else in the MCU. I think we need
Captain Britain would be fun, or there was there's other things that people are fan casting him for. I thought he was in talks at one point or something, but there's so many endless Marvel characters you can cast him as. Shit. You can bring him back into DC. I don't think he'll ever unless James Gunn
I think
persuades him, because they did him extremely dirty with Warner Brothers, but he's done really well for himself. He's a great actor. Watch the Ungentlemanly Warfare. He's great in that. He's great in Mission Impossible. He's got a Warhammer movie coming out. I think he's got Voltron coming out. So he's got movies coming.
Too much potential to just not. Yeah.
I mean, even The Witcher, Netflix, they did him so dirty because he is a big nerd. He was really big into Witcher. He did one season, and then they wanted to go away from the games and books so bad. And Henry was like, no, this is what happens in the books and the games. And they disrespected him extraordinarily bad in that as well. I don't get it, man. He's such a big draw. He is a big draw. Everybody can agree that Henry Cavill is one of God's gifts to this earth.
Right. He's not just, good, fun. No. He's a phenomenal actor. And the scene where he kills God,
he's a good actor, man.
But he shows what a phenomenal actor he is in that scene. Like you see the grief and the anger and the sadness and the strength all in one scene.
You do. Legitimately do. And so justice for Henry Cavill, justice for James Marsden. Okay. Those are two dudes that deserve better. All right.
Is James Marsden, he's coming back as Cyclops, right? In Doomsday?
Yes.
Okay.
See? There you
Not
go.
to confuse with Doomsday in this. It's just, yeah.
Yeah. Oof.
That's what I'm saying. That's why I think it would be cool. Like all these Marvel characters are getting redemption kind of thing. Or you look at like Michael B. Jordan in Fantastic Four. That was terrible. He came back as Killmonger. That was phenomenal. Yeah. And I recently rewatched Wakanda Forever, and I love that scene with him in it. It's so freaking good.
Yeah, legit though.
So
I agree. Marvel's getting there. Maybe eventually we'll get DC to give some justice. Man, what could have been with that Batman Deathstroke Ben Affleck movie? I will always wonder, man, because I loved Batfleck. And apparently we're never getting a sequel with freaking Robert Pattinson. So
whatever.
All right. Let's not end on a bad note. Let's go out. Shout out to our Patrons who support the show. I know we didn't do a June Patreon watch along. June got away from us, but don't worry. We are going to do something July. Hot Fuzz. We're going to watch together as a Patreon group. And shout out to all you guys for supporting the show, man. You guys can support the show. Patreon.com/hopsgeeknews. All that kind of stuff. San Diego Comic-Con's getting ready to come down. Don't know what's happening. If I'm going to Universal, if I'm going to San Diego, if I'm doing something else. Who freaking knows, man? Make sure to find us on our socials. Follow us there. And we will see you guys next time with Superman's comic book origins with his friends. Peace out.
Breaking news from the stadium tonight as an anonymous fan foot the bill for 55,000 hot dogs, bringing that sweet tubed meat to everyone in attendance.
Free dogs! Yeah!
55,000 hot dogs? What does that even cost? While the identity of this Frankfurter philanthropist remains anonymous, their all-beefy generosity will go down in history.
The new Mega Millions. More to win means more to give. How you spend it is up to you.
Yeah!
For game odds and details, visit SCEducationlottery.com.